Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reincarnated in Marvel as a gamer. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Reincarnated in Marvel as a gamer is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if hosting Q&A in One Piece world? What if Luffy ate the sun fruit instead of rubber fruit? What if Transmigrated in Bleach as Tsunayoshi Sawada? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 281. Alex Walker POV. With the seal that held Null finally broken, Clintar started shaking violently as a piercing malevolent shriek filled the void around me, accompanied by a fair bit of shadows that formed around the planet. Soon enough the shadows that had momentarily enveloped Clintar started to join, forming a singular entity, Null. Finally! Free! Null muttered in a low, almost hissing tone. His eyes scanned his naked body with a sick smile, without even acknowledging my existence. Null LV 1666. 1666? That was the peak of his power? It made no sense. If that were to be the case, Arishem himself would be more than enough to deal with him. Yes. Null muttered, hurling himself at me, in a state of ecstatic laughter. I said nothing, blasting at him with light nova, vaporizing his entire body down to a molecular level. Light? I see. Null cackled, his body reforming as if nothing had happened. This time, however, his body wasn't naked as it had been a few moments ago, with now Null wearing a black set of armor, just like in the comics. Null LV 2666. I frowned, feeling the change in his energy. His power increased a lot, and the only difference from before was his armor. He was either playing with me, or his power was heavily reliant on how powerful his tools were. If this was the case, then it was safe to surmise his max power would only come to show after he equips All Black. I will give you a chance to make your end a quick one, Null said in a hiss, pointing at me with his bony fingers. I am honestly quite tired of every enemy I have ever faced asking me that. Like, do you all get your dialogues from the same book? I replied with a tired sigh, using the time he was giving me as a pleasantly welcomed static target to charge, Holy Rainfall. Just avoid the small talk, and try to kill me, will ya? With that said, I unleashed the spell upon him, once again overwhelming him, erasing his entire body in a hail of light. That won't do a thing, child. I can't die, Null said, his body, once again reforming as if nothing had happened. This time, however, taking just a bit longer to do so. I said nothing. I already knew that my attacks wouldn't kill him. That was never the intention, to begin with. Right now, I was simply testing the waters. But while I knew my attacks would not kill him, I was also very aware of what Null was trying to hide. The little fact my attacks were actually having some kind of effect on him. As much as he tried to brush it off for the show, so far, each time I erased his body it would take him a microsecond longer to reform the next time. I hadn't ruled out the likelihood of him playing with me, but while that remained a possibility, I was confident he was simply trying to get into my head to kick me out of my game. It would not be that easy. Immortality, or in your case, immortality, it's not the same thing as invincibility, I replied, after a few seconds of silence, my eyes on him. I agree, Null nodded, smiling in an unsettling way. His red eyes gleaming with mad delight as he stared into my eyes for a brief moment, before turning his attention to Arishem, and then to Clintar. You brought guests. Good. The time had come, the real battle for the sake of the universe would commence soon. Arishem. I muttered, giving the celestial a look. I know, Arishem replied, getting into position. Without another word, I shifted my attention back to Null, before glancing to the planet below us, which had just now begun to tremble uncontrollably, as an unquantifiable amount of symbiotes flew out of it in all directions. Now the guests will have something to do. As for you, Null hissed, his right arm extending to his side in a perpendicular fashion, as something started to bulge out of his limb, moving like a worm inside of the soil, before bursting out of him in a gory show, forming a blade, a sword, his weapon. All black. Null all black LV 3400. And there it is. The god-killing blade. The increase in his power was lower than I expected and lower than it should have been for that matter, fully aware whatever increase he had gotten was nothing but Null trying to hide All Black's power. He was playing the long game, for what end? No idea. Surrender, end your suffering before it begins, child. Null spoke, his voice rasping like a nail on a chalkboard. Do you not realize you can't win? I am Lord of the Abyss. God of the symbiotes. I am the Void. I sighed, saying nothing in return as I cracked my neck and fingers, before activating thought acceleration, to amplify my thought processing speed by a few thousand times. The darkness inside of you? That darkness bows to me. As will everything in this universe. Null hissed, his eyes fixed on me. Not to burst your bubble, but there are at least 90 beings stronger than you, in this universe alone for that matter, I said, taking a step forward. Not that you will live long enough to meet any of them. Null sneered, as all around him a multitude of beings started to appear, seemingly forming out of thin air. At first, I couldn't discern with certainty what or who was forming, but soon enough I realized what was happening. He was summoning celestial corpses, all under the control of his symbiotes. What made this even more depraved than it already was the fact that the symbiotes didn't like bonding with a corpse, at all. In fact, it pained them a lot, as dead beings were poison to them when bonded, bringing to them nothing but agony, and yet, their own creator was forcing them to suffer. Now children, go and bring me his corpse! Null ordered as I got into position, initially assuming he was giving them the command to attack me. However, I was soon proved wrong when all of his troops, the ones he had just summoned, rushed towards Arishem. However, before they could move too far, I moved forward, closing the distance between Null and me, in the process, one-shotting all of his zombie-like beings with a single, holy nova, in a fraction of a second. As I came to a full stop in front of him, a single hand bracing against his chest gently, before using Lumen Cordis, as well as Teleport, to blast him away, taking this golden opportunity he had given me to finally isolate him. Take care, Arishem, I muttered before teleporting to where I had sent Null with my combined attack. To find Null sitting on an asteroid, patiently waiting for me. I still have more of those you killed back in Clintar, you know that, right? Null mentioned, before turning his eyes towards me. You only killed a few, the rest will take care of your friend. You only delayed his demise. Friend is a strong word. I would say associate, I replied, walking towards him, equipping Serenity. Very well, I'll play your game. Null sneered as he stood up from the asteroid, all black in hand. You wanted me for yourself, you got me. Now show me your grand plan. Chapter 282. Alex Walker POV. I was the first to move, dashing quickly at Null, who remained unmoving, as I delivered a powerful punch to his face using Serenity as knuckle duster, the impact of my attack resonating throughout the empty void of space, distorting his face under my fist. My turn, Null muttered, swinging all black at me in a horizontal manner, grazing my armor as I ducked under the attack, making me frown. Discovering all black could extend its perceived range of attack. However, Null didn't stop there, continuing his assault with a series of attacks, each one directed and calculated. Keeping my focus on him, I skillfully dodged every attack thrown at me, weaving through the blows with grace, methodically directing my attacks towards his limbs, striking at every opportunity as soon as it came. Is this your plan? Null taunted, our attacks clashing together. If it is, so far I'm unimpressed. I didn't come here to impress you, I came here to kill you. I spat, using Holy Barrage to blast him away. But much to my unexpected shock, Null swung all black at my light-based attack, having his weapon devour my spell, empowering his weapon as he disappeared out of sight at a frightening speed. Normally, following such speeds would be a slight problem for me, but thanks to thought acceleration, I was able to follow his movements quite easily. Turning around just in time to catch a huge ball of black energy, the size of a moon that Null had fired at me with all black, using my own energy and adding to it with his own to create the attack. Taking note that all black was possibly able to consume all types of energy-based attacks, I carefully shifted his attack upwards using fundamental force, gravity, to do so. Not bad, Null complimented with a monstrous smile, the necro blade quivering under his grasp in sheer excitement. Now, don't be impatient. You will get your fill soon, he whispered, his last comment being directed at his weapon, who simply quivered even more. If energy attacks won't do, I guess it was time to mix things up. Deciding to test all black on what it could or not absorb, I created a zone of subatomic decay around Null to test the theory, using the skill, fundamental force, weak force, to do so, making the king in black cough blood in confusion before breaking into a fit of laughter. You figured it out already. Impressive, Null complimented again, blood dripping from his mouth as he offered me a cruel, sadistic smile. So my theory was correct, the necroblade can't absorb energy without physically interacting with the source. Not only that, but Null's reaction time to what he can't see, it's abysmal. That opens a whole new path of possibilities. My turn, Null muttered without even bothering from moving from the zone of decay, as he raised all black high above his head, charging it with an obscene amount of energy, before bringing the blade down towards me with a quick motion, launching several black energy blades at me. Feeling there was something strange about this attack, I used precognition, above thought acceleration, to get a peek of what I was dealing with, discovering his attack would follow me for an undisclosed amount of time until they hit me or were destroyed. I could work with that. Taking a defensive stance, I used decoy, before changing the shape of Serenity to a more adequate form, destroying each attack Null sent my way, matching his own energy blades with my own, both in size and power. However, as I was swinging Serenity to block his increasing number of attacks, Null closed the distance between us as I was blocking one of his attacks, taking this small opening to drive the necroblade through my stomach, like a knife through warm butter. It's over, Null muttered into my ear, his voice soothingly disturbing, like a madman's lullaby, or the calling of a murderer, as he pushed all black deeper into my body. Inside my body, the necroblade squirmed, trying to explore its newest victim before absorbing it. However, as all black tried to do that, Null found himself frowning and his blade unable to go through his intended purpose. What is the meaning of this? So that's how your weapon absorbs energy en masse, I commented, blasting Null from the back using Lumen Cordis, moments before I dissipated my decoy, one I had previously deployed to gather more information about his weapon, which is why the decoy had not even tried to dodge or escape as the necroblade plunged into it. I underestimated you. Again, Null muttered, his body regenerating from the blast as he spoke. This only shows how much of a threat you are, and how necessary it's for me to kill you. I'm sure you have your reasons, I replied, darting towards him. I won't underestimate you again, Null sneered, darting towards him, swinging his weapon at me, hitting once again another decoy that crumbled and shattered under all black like glass, as the real me moved around using illusions to keep myself hidden. Is this your new strategy? Running like a coward? He grumbled. Yep, I exclaimed, in an unabashedly pretentious tone as Null dealt with the decoys, before breaking the illusion that kept me concealed, using Serenity to slice through Null's arm, the one holding the necroblade, before using Holy Nova to blast the king in black away, effectively disarming Null, in more ways than one. Well, there goes that idea. I sighed, trying to negate All Black's existence, but failing. Perhaps I could store the weapon in my inventory? I mused at that idea for 1/10 of a second thanks to thought acceleration, eventually deciding to grab the necroblade to try and put it on my inventory. But like before, where I had tried to negate the blade, I found myself being unable to store it. Feeling the blade thirstily trying to corrupt me, the very moment my hand had made contact with it, its attempts having no effect whatsoever. Which in turn made All Black immediately change its approach to a more aggressive one, trying to absorb my energy, and kill me in the process. I sighed in disappointment, opening a portal to the furthest corner of the universe before tossing the necroblade in it. If negating it, and storing it hadn't worked, perhaps separating them would do the trick. I see. Null hissed with a laugh, his body fully healed from my previous attack. You wanted to separate me from All Black, a clever yet futile endeavor, he added, his right arm spasming like it had done before when our battle began. So separation was also a no-go. Noted, I replied, taking note of his energy increasing. I fucking called it, he wasn't going all out before. Null All Black LV 3659. Chapter 283. Thor Odinson POV. Far away. In the darkest corner of the universe. I could feel the battle for the fate of the universe beginning. My brother's cosmic energy, clashing against Null's, like raging tides, in a battle of life and death. Being able to feel every clash of their battle, despite being millions of light years away from them. It was time to fulfill my promise. To battle by his side. While it was true, I had yet to master my powers. I was certain I had learned more than enough. And even if that wasn't the case, it really didn't matter. For I, Thor, would not let my brother fight this war alone. I had taken enough time as it was. Continuing with my training even after the war had begun. Disgracefully forcing Alex to face this challenge without me. Because I was certain I was close to reaching my goal. That, however, was beyond the point. I had a goal, a dream, a mission, and a duty to fulfill. And the power I currently had would have to suffice. On my way, brother, I muttered full of resolve, grabbing the weapon my father had brought for me, before teleporting into the battlefield, where I aimed to figure out how to assist my brother in defeating Null. Fall back! Hela shouted, lifting up a chipped and damaged blade, raising it above her head to guide the troops in a retreat. As she used her other hand to rip apart the monsters lunging at her. The symbiotes. I had barely arrived, and it was clear how much of a menace the symbiotes were. Outnumbering our armies. Pushing through our forces without any care for their own well-being, following Null's command like obeying tools, never turning back, never tiring, never relenting. Their way of fighting. It was infuriating. Enough! I roared, my voice muffled by absolute rage. As I brought my weapon down on the horde of enemies rushing towards our troops like a tide of flesh, erasing most of the abominations in one strike with the clap of my thunder. Thor? Hela said, her eyes resting on me. Are you okay? I asked, glancing at her in worry. I am. Hela nodded, brushing my concern off with a roll of her eyes while keeping her answer short. The enemies aren't that strong, for the most part. But what they generally lack in strength, they compensate in sheer numbers. You kill one, two more appear. What do you mean for the most part? I asked. Some of them are special. Hela replied, her tone growing colder. Long story short, the stronger the host, the stronger the symbiote, and some hosts appear to have been quite the warriors themselves before succumbing to these putrid parasites. Have any of our troops fallen into their grasp? I asked, hoping the answer would be no. 3 so far, Hela replied with a sigh. A number that only remains so low thanks to Alex, and the weapons he provided for this war, amongst other things. Did you offer them a warrior's death? I asked, knowing very well they were most likely already dead. Yes, they deserved nothing less. Hela nodded, her tone growing soft for a brief moment. Their lives, their sacrifices, will continue to live on, following the sharp edge of my blades, slaughtering those who took them from us. Alex will bring them back, I said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder, touched by the fact she was giving the life of those that had died beside her value. However, before I could fully appreciate this development with my sister, I found myself turning around to the far distance, my sensing laying 200 miles north, feeling something approaching. Another wave. Hella spat, feeling the same, summoning a few dozen blades from the very ground beneath us, that towered over the mountains around, touching the skies. This wave it's bigger than the one I dealt with, I stated, feeling the seemingly incalculable number of enemies approaching. Their independent energies fluctuating in pain? No, that wasn't pain, it was agony. You dealt with what remained, Hella scoffed, before giving me a quick nod. But yes, this wave is several times bigger than the last. It seems your presence here ruffled some feathers, in a manner of speaking. I nodded, my mind absent, as it was otherwise too occupied trying to rationalize the vast array of emotions our enemies were experiencing. Failing to come to an acceptable conclusion. It simply made no sense. Their emotions, their feelings, their pain, they were exactly the same as those of the troops standing behind us, but somehow worse. They were scared, angry, ashamed, and disgusted. Feeling nothing but absolute torment of the purest kind. Their wills broken, their spirits tamed, leaving nothing but an agonizing echo of despair. I could feel it. The fact they had no intent, nothing. Just pain and obedience. That monster, I growled, my power spiraling out of control in utter rage. I had always been aware his armies were nothing but slaves, tools, created by him to obey, but if that was his intention, why even give them a mind of their own? He had given them life, and feelings, only to make them suffer. He had created them, giving them the ability to desire, to wish, to hope, only to put a collar on their necks, shackles beyond breaking. What happened? Hella asked, her eyes fixed on me as I reined my power back to control. I sighed, trying to find the right words to explain what I had just found. The symbiotes, they don't want to fight us. They sure have a fun way to express that. Hella shot back, her eyes gleaming with skepticism. They don't have a choice in the matter, they are slaves to their creator, who gave them the ability to feel, without any free will. I replied, my eyes catching at the distance the wave of black approaching from the north. I see. Hella replied, her tone clearly showcasing she was uninterested in what I had just found. My pity well it's dry. And so should be yours. This is war, and there's only one thing that matters in war, and that's winning. I pity them. I nodded, not even bothering to hide it, as I took a step forward towards the ever-approaching horde of enemies. I feel their pain, and acknowledge their feelings, their hopes, and dreams. However, that doesn't mean my goal has changed, it simply means I have a whole new reason to kill that sick bastard. What he was doing to his own creations was evil just for the sake of evil. There was no benefit, no reason, no justification, nothing. Just a monster, taking pleasure in breaking even his own allies. I suppose now that I look back, I had lied just now. My goals had changed, or rather evolved. I now not only wanted to win this war, but if possible, I now also wanted to save them, the ones now playing the roles of our enemy. I had no idea how I would do that, or if it even was possible. But I would find a way. It might sound foolish, and perhaps it was, but I would not forgive myself if I didn't even try. Chapter 284. The Watcher POV. As Alex Walker battled for the sake of the universe, against the eldritch god Null, the rest of the heroes in this universe encountered challenges of their own. Thor Odinson, the promised son of Asgard, and holder of the power of past kings, struggled in a battle between his duty and his values. His position as a king, and his title as a hero. Hela Odin's daughter, the forsaken daughter of Asgard, was, on the other hand, fighting to forge a path of redemption, even if she herself didn't know that. Battling her demons, her past, and her future, all at once in the midst of war. Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. A man that had lost it all in a single day, his family, his friends, his past, and his future, leaving nothing but a tool for Hydra, had, thanks to the intervention of one, recovered more than he had lost, arming him with the hope of a future, giving him the resolve to fight once more, waging his life at every turn, all in order to protect his new world. The Ancient One. The child blessed by the stars, a prodigy of the mystic arts. For as long as she would care to remember, all there was for her was the Order, for that, for the sake of everything she had grown to believe in, she had sacrificed more than anyone could possibly imagine, giving her life, her family, and her soul for the mystic Order. Her future set in stone from the moment she joined the Order. Yet, without a warning, a single man shattered her path like a mirror, giving the old sorceress something she never would have expected the day she met this man, a future without chains. For the first time since she joined the Order, her destiny was unknown to her, and that gave her hope. He had given her hope. A new path to walk on, one full of surprises, of unknowns, of endless possibilities, and for that she was willing to die, to give her all. In her eyes she owed him that much. He had saved her, breaking the cage she never knew was there. Sif, the Asgardian goddess of war, and one of Alex's biggest admirers, second only to Emily W. and Natasha W. From the day she met him, the man she had grown to love had shown her a world of change. In her eyes she was certain he was the pinnacle of evolution, of what a warrior should aim to be. From the weakest to the strongest, he had shattered every wall she thought there was, pushing her to strive for more, for greater goals. Giving her the hunger to never settle. She didn't know what the future had ahead of her, or if she would remain by Alex's side as her lover, but to her, life, after all, takes turns no one wants, but to her, that didn't matter, she would appreciate every moment by his side and fight for him no matter what. More than her lover, he was her hero. A man that was worthy of her sword, now and ever. Alex Walker POV. Noah was stronger than me, at least in the numbers game alone. His level was higher than mine, and so was his cosmic energy. However, while he was a step ahead of me in the power department, he was 100 steps back in terms of experience. Each strike would come with an inordinate delay, allowing me to parry or dodge. Beyond that, his approach to things in battle was straightforward, almost too simplistic. I hadn't ruled out the possibility of him faking it. But why would he? He could be pushing me, way harder with the power he has, yet I am able to not only keep up but win most of our exchanges. I suppose he never saw the need to really train, after all, in his eyes, why would he? He was immortal, a being beyond the concepts of life and death, a monster that can just keep on striking until his enemy falls. Credit where it's due, though. While it was true I had the upper hand in the experience/technique department, he was pretty much on par with me in terms of energy projection, as well as energy structure analysis. He had a keen eye for most things, being able to find their weakness, their breaking point with just a few glances. Thankfully, though, my powers made all spells and or skills used by me perfect, so they really had no breaking point, at least in terms of energy structure. "Don't you get tired of cutting me down, child?" Null asked as I ducked under his blade, before slamming a light bolt to his face, blasting him away. "Not really, it's quite therapeutic if you asked me," I replied, frowning. Even though he was technically stronger than me, I was keeping the upper hand in our battle, but what good did that do, if I couldn't kill him? Not only that, but what guarantee did I have I would keep this up for long? He could grow stronger or learn from our battle, ultimately deleting the gap between us in skill. Even if that never happened, it was only a matter of time before I started slipping, making mistakes he could capitalize on, and even if that didn't happen, did I really want to fight with him for all eternity? The answer was no. "You will never win. I'll admit you have proven to be quite powerful, more than those that fought me the first time. However, I am the end of everything, the bringer of darkness, the king of the void, and in time, your killer." Null sneered, holding the necroblade tight, his eyes flashing in red. "My victory, my conquest, it's inevitable. Look anorexic Thanos wannabe, I replied, taking a step forward. Let's save the small talk, shall we? Null scoffed, slowly walking towards me. In time you will see how pointless this all is. This conversation? Yeah, I see how pointless it is, I replied, with a cocky smile. All part of the act to keep him guessing, to push him off his game. It was simply a matter of time before I found a solution to deal with him. I was certain, in the meantime, however, I would keep him occupied with me, so that no one has to die by his hands. At least, not directly. Chapter 285. Alex Walker POV. I must admit, you are quite the difficult pest to eliminate. Null sneered, baring his unnaturally long teeth at me in something akin to a smile. I was about to say the same. I replied, channeling my cosmic power to increase my power, as a bright aura swarmed around me, making my muscles contract and hardened, increasing my power dramatically. I was already pushing the boundaries of what I could and could not do, bringing my body to the very limit every few seconds just to match him in power. His power simply kept increasing as the battle continued, making it considerably harder for me to keep my game ahead of his. There was only so much experience alone could solve, and Null was already reaching the line where the skill gap between us would become irrelevant. So, in order to maintain a safe distance between us, where my experience in combat could trump over his raw power, I was forcibly enhancing the flow of my cosmic energy, to double the results a normal flow of cosmic energy would usually give. However, this increase in power wasn't one without consequences. Thanks to this technique I had created on the go while fighting Null to affect the flow of my own energy, my body was in a constant state of cellular self-destruction and cellular regeneration, effectively nullifying my regeneration for the most part while I was in this boosted state. Fortunately for me, thanks to my many adaptation skills, and the nature of my powers themselves, my body was slowly growing accustomed to the strain I was giving it. Be that as it may, if things continued this way, I was nearing the point where taking the boons of the living tribunal would be the best option to continue moving forward. I'm not sure how much power Null has left, but I am almost certain he's nearing his max. I truly don't understand why to struggle against the unavoidable, Null said, walking towards me in the empty void of space. Why fight to defend those that would never defend you? Your little group, I understand. But the universe? What has the universe ever done for you? I narrowed my eyes, glaring at him, before sighing. You speak some truths. The universe, at least those that rule it, consider me a pest, an affront to their goals. Just like you. But the thing is, I don't fight for them. Fuck them. Fuck you. And everyone else. I fight for me, and what's mine? If others benefit from it, good for them. It was never my intention. Null chuckled, his chuckle slowly turning into genuine laughter. I think you are the first being in all of creation I have ever come close to like. Congratulations, you have earned my praise for that unlikely accomplishment, so, when the time comes, I will kill the ones you sought to protect, offering them the mercy of a painless death. It's cute you think you will win, I replied, with a challenging smile, pointing Serenity towards the sky. Consuming the boons of the living tribunal, right now, it wasn't the time for caution. Null hummed, his eyes hardening, undoubtedly feeling my power increase. That's better. I grinned, allocating the stats points I had on one particular stat. Look. It was time to start Plan B, using Dreams of Aspiration to put Lady Luck on my side, by alternating probability itself to push the tides in my favor. You had more power saved up, Null commented, giving me a scrutinizing look. You truly are someone worth killing, he added before darting towards me, at a blinding speed. However, before he could reach me, I jumped above him, dodging his attack, before twirling around as he passed by, blasting him on the back with Serenity. ///// Are you really struggling against that roach? backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash. I stopped cold. That voice, I knew who it was. The Beyonder. Inwardly cursing, I looked for him on my map. But found nothing, but a small message saying he was outside my universe. Slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash slash I'm not there. I lost. Fair and square. You won the right to keep me out of your dimension when you won my tournament. However, that doesn't mean I can't watch every now and then. Backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash. Leave me alone! I barked, keeping my eyes on No. I will, once you are nothing but a corpse for all black to feast on. No replied, thinking I was talking to him. Slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash slash you are unbearably blind. Can't you see that if you so wished, erasing that edgy maggot would be as difficult as breathing? However, instead of dispatching off him, you quantify your power, limiting your own self to boundaries of irrationality. Backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash. I said nothing, dodging the onslaught of attacks Null was throwing at me, keeping the distance between us. As I tried to cut the connection the Beyonder had set. Slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash slash you banished me from your universe. Me, the Beyonder. Yet you struggled to defeat him? I am rather insulted. Honestly. Backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash. My eyes widened a bit at his comment, making me falter in my attempt to cut his connection. He had point. I had banished him out of this universe a long time ago. The me of then pales in comparison to the me of now. Yet against all odds. I had banished him, a being that ranked as the second strongest being in all of creation. Granted, at the time, I had been in auto mode. But be that as it may, my power had been enough to banish the likes of the Beyonder. If only I knew how to access that mode again. Perhaps this was dreams of aspiration doing. A result of pushing the waves of luck towards me. Resulting in an unlikely event. One to set a path towards my ultimate desire. Winning this war. Dreams of aspiration. Was, after all, an ability that was fairly difficult to control. At least the passive side of it anyway, because unlike the active side of it, where I could literally see probable events and make them happen, the passive side of this skill worked just like luck. Thankfully, the passive side of my ability still followed my intent. Meaning it would not bring me bad luck or harm, as long as I didn't actively want it. But even though it followed my general intent, the results of this passive side were impossible to predict. In dungeons, I would sometimes simply find more loot, which was by all means a favorable outcome. But other times I would simply find stacks of coins on the floor as I entered a dungeon or a collectible with no real use, an outcome that technically entered the realm of good luck, but on the shittier side. So, perhaps, the Beyonder talking with me was nothing more than a passively generated event. Something my skill deemed as good luck. Any tips? I asked, teleporting out of Null's grasp. Slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash slash him. Well, it would harm my image if you get killed by him, especially after kicking me out of your universe. I don't want that. Very well then, I will give you a nudge in the right direction. I do owe you a prize for winning my tournament, after all, an official prize at that. The reason why you are so weak, it's because you lack understanding. The moment you banished me, I caught a glimpse of your true power, and believe me, you have more than enough power to erase the likes of him. So, my advice it's the following, and it comes in a rhyme. There are two forces fighting, one to negate. Darkness and light is a pointless debate. The real enemy sleeps from within. Should you understand, you will see. Should you fail, you will die. I can't wait to see what path you will take, as I with delight watch from afar. Backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash forward slash backslash. Chapter 286. As my battle with Null continued, I couldn't help but let my mind focus on his little advice. Failing to understand what he was trying to convey, angry he had worded his so-called advice as a riddle, now of all moments. Enough! No roared, blasting me away with a wave of cosmic disturbance. I smiled, landing on an asteroid passing nearby, arms crossed, serenity floating around me idly. Why so angry? I jibed at his reaction. Happy his inability to kill me was getting on his nerves. Null said nothing, his eyes piercing me with pure hate and amusement, a weird mix, his very soul quaking with abhor and admiration, a complicated contradiction. I never thought dealing with you would be this hard. If things continue this way, we will be stuck in this empty space fighting for all eternity. Not quite, I replied, uncrossing my arms. Unlike you, I continue to get stronger. Eventually, I will surpass you. It's just a matter of time. And you know it. My stats were in a constant state of evolution, and so were my skills. It was simply a matter of time before Null's attack couldn't reach me anymore. Granted, for my stats and skills to reach that state, it would take years of fighting him non-stop. But if that was the only way to eventually win, I would happily keep Null entertained for all of eternity, if that was what it took to keep my loved ones safe. I do, Null snarled, the veins of his neck throbbing, as he bared his fangs at me. I'm fully aware of that fact. Do you think me blind? Taken back by his acceptance of my eventual superiority, I found myself without words. I had expected to rile him up, to anger him more, to make his moves more predictable, not this. Since we started this fight, your power hasn't ceased to increase in small amounts, such talent it's nothing short of infuriating. It took me eons to reach this level, and yet here you are clashing with me. Null sighed, his lips pressed together, as he took on a wide stance. Your life, your existence, everything you are to the very nucleus of your being, represents too much a threat to everything I want. Flattering, I replied, remembering what the Beyonder had said for a brief moment. This is exactly why. I must stop you now before it's too late. Null boomed at me, his voice hissing through the void of space like a blade cutting paper. Your existence is an affront to the fabric of reality. One I will correct. I took a step back, feeling his overall energy increase exponentially, as well as his power, immediately realizing he was absorbing the life of his creations to have enough power to end me without any further delay. Using the connection he had to them, like a funnel to absorb them. If only I could disturb that connection, I would render him powerless. As he himself is not storing all that power, but all black. But unfortunately, I can't. Any direct attack at him would be absorbed by that damned blade. Meaning I had no other option but to fight head-on. For now. I cursed under my breath, tripling the flow of energy within my body preemptively. Seeing as the very space around Null bent, distorting like a broken mirror under his power. This is the end. No more playing around, Alex? Null declared with a low growl, finishing whatever he had done a few moments earlier. His power now beyond previous limitations and simple comprehension. Things were never easy for me, were they? You killed half of your children for power. That's cruel, even for you. I replied, increasing the flow of my energy even more, beyond safe levels. I was no longer in a position where I could play safe, at all. Warning! Energy flow reaching dangerous levels. Please cease all energy-related actions now. I dismissed the notification, activating the auto-potion system to keep my HP and MP at acceptable levels, which should keep the side effects of increasing the flow of my energy 10 times at bay, at least for a good while. You match my power again. Null laughed, his eyes gleaming in pure hate and anger. Very well then, let's see for how long you can keep this up. Forever, I replied, engaging him in combat once again. Pain coursing through my body, which on its own was surprising, considering the amount of pain tolerance I had, but be that as it may, I would not stop, I would not falter, I would not give up until Null was nothing but a bad memory. Thor Odinson POV. I had found a way to save them. To save the symbiotes and help my brother. All it had taken was Null killing half of them from afar. I now knew what I had to do. I had one shot at this, one shot to cut his connection to the hive, permanently separating him from his army. This would take all my power to achieve. I had to harm Null's essence with an energy-disturbing attack, breaking the chain that connects him to them. Are you sure of this? The Ancient One asked, her eyes gazing at waves of symbiotes crashing with our armies, her tone soft and full of doubts. I am. I nodded, determined to help everyone. My brother, my family, my people, and those enslaved by the circumstances of their birth. If you miss, you will only give more power to Null, the Ancient One reminded me. Her tone gained an edge. I have no doubts Alex is fully aware of this, which is why he hasn't tried anything of the sort. I nodded. After all, if I had come up with this idea, there was no doubt in my mind my brother had already thought of it way beforehand. However, Null had yet to face me. Besides, I was absolutely certain that the moment I appeared on the battlefield, my brother would know what I was trying to do and would do his best to give me the opportunity to attack. Very well. The Ancient One nodded, taking a deep breath. I suppose there is some truth to the saying that wars are not won with caution, but by taking risks. I am the embodiment of that saying. I laughed, giving the Ancient One a reassuring look. I knew I wasn't the smartest person in the room, ever, but I was confident my plan would work, but in the case it didn't, I had a backup plan to help my brother. I would let him consume me. If my plan didn't work, I would become fuel for my brother to vanquish this foe. Then, good luck. Thor Odinson. The Ancient One smiled, opening a portal a few light years away to Alex's location. I have no need for such things, I boasted, jumping into the portal, masking my energy to avoid detection. Chapter 287. Alex Walker POV. Null charged at me, throwing a flurry of attacks with all black, that I parried with serenity, keeping on a defensive stance, before attempting to counter with Light Bomb, which failed when the Eldritch God leaped sharply backwards, avoiding the attack before it detonated. I exhaled, taking a brief moment to breathe, before rushing at him, delivering a horizontal kick that the Eldritch God parried with his arm, pushing me back. Regaining my composure, I pushed forward, being back on him instantly with a barrage of powerful attacks with Serenity on Warhammer form, each set even stronger than the last, using precognition to coordinate my attacks so that he wouldn't have even the slightest chance to counter my advance. Slowly overwhelming Null, who had begun a slow retreat backwards under the onslaught of incoming blows. Struggling to even move. You are delaying what should be a quick end. Null snarled, spikes of black goo protruding from all over his body, forcing me to jump back, to avoid being hit. I could say the same thing, I replied, noticing something at the distance on my map, a green dot moving towards me, who was no other than Thor. What in the actual hell was Thor doing here? He should know more than anyone how outmatched he is. Unless he did but was willing to risk it for a plan. No way. That bastard was planning to attack Null's connection to the hive. I grinned at this, stopping myself from laughing. That Asgardian bastard was crazy. Very well, brother, let's do this. Ultron POV. These creatures were remarkable. Their biology, their powers, it was fascinating tearing them apart, and it was even more fascinating dissecting them alive. Even with all my preparations and plans, they were proving to be a force to be reckoned with. I could only imagine how powerful their creator was. Now, that thought worried me. There was a big chance Alex would lose this battle. At least mathematically speaking. I had some calculations, using the live data I had acquired from Alex, and the results were concerning. There was a 61.9812938985% chance of Alex losing this battle. I didn't like those odds. Then there were the Beyonder's words. The Beyonder, a being leagues above Null, making the Eldritch being feel more like a cockroach than a threat, yet Alex had forced such being out of this very universe, when he had been much, much weaker than he is now. Meaning the Beyonder was right. Alex had always had the power to eliminate Null, he had then, and he had now. But something was stopping him from accessing this power. The question now was, what could it be? I chuckled at the absurdity of my own conclusion. Alex was suppressing his own power. It was human nature, from a biological point of view. Humans were always limiting themselves, their physical strength, and their intellectual prowess, all for the sake of self-preservation. An evolutionary mechanism designed to keep them alive. Their brains limiting the reach of their abilities to an acceptable margin, sending pain through their body when said limit was exerted, as a signal to the human in question to not push too far. Biologically speaking, this was essential for survival, because their bodies were simply not made for this kind of strain. However, this survival mechanism was pointless for Alex. He was beyond the term of humanity. At least physically. Meaning he had yet to ascend, mentally. To forsake his humanity, to evolve from what he was, to allow what he could be. I wasn't sure of this, nevertheless, I had to let him know what I had found. If luck was on my side, perhaps it would help him. Thor Odinson POV. I couldn't help but smile, feeling my brother's energy discovering me as I crept on their battle. I could tell he was amused by my approach, but nevertheless on board with it. I could almost laugh. If things went well, the battle would end soon. It all depended on my plan working. One shot. That was all I had. One opportunity. I won't lie. I'm nervous. Never before the stakes had been so high. Never before I had so much to lose, so much to gain from a single action. Be that as it may, I would not falter. I was Thor Odinson, the brother of Alex Walker, the son of Odin, the king of Asgard. And I would not fail those that had put their lives on my hands, for even in death, I would protect them. Question mark 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 POV. So, it was finally time. How nostalgic. It's something wrong? My companion asked, frowning. No, on the contrary, I replied, giving her a warm smile. A bird was about to break out of his cage, taking to the endless skies, to finally soar free as it was meant to do. Alex was about to become what he should have been, a being free of chains. Then what? My companion asked. Well, my dear friend, we are about to witness the birth of a true god, I replied, patting her head. Pay attention, this is not an event that happens often. Him? My companion replied, her tone full of skepticism. Yes, I nodded, beaming at her. He's about to start his real journey. I remember this day very well. How it felt. To now be a witness of it all, it's quite the treat. Why now? My companion asked, looking at me. You'll see, I replied, winking at her. This was something she had to see to understand. Words could simply not explain what was about to happen. How? I can't see that far. My companion huffed, crossing her arms. I sighed, rolling my eyes. Creating a TV that would allow her to see what I was seeing, and how I was seeing it. There, now you can see with me. You had me asking questions, all this time, instead of doing this. She hissed, pointing at the TV. It's not my fault you are weak, is it? I replied in indignation. Never mind, just turn the damn thing on, old bastard. She sighed, turning to the TV, arms crossed as I turned it on. Chapter 288. Alex Walker POV. I continued clashing with Null, making sure to keep his undivided attention on me at all times. Thor was betting everything on this move of his. The best I could do was give him the best possible chance to see it through. I am growing tired of this. Null roared in utter rage as he swung all black down on me. Entertaining you was never my intent, moron. I replied in kind, bearing a feral grin, meeting his blade with mine in an equal clash of power that shook the cosmos in dread and hope. Null growled under his breath, taking a few steps back in order to unleash another devastating attack upon me. However, I didn't allow him to take the distance he so much desired. Instead, I closed the small gap he had created between us in a mere instant, serenity changing shapes as I brought my weapon down on him. Null cursed in hate, jumping back, parrying my attack, but once again, I followed, pressing the attack. No sooner he would parry an attack than the next was already upon him, overwhelming him, keeping his entire being focused on me as our weapons clashed, over and over again in a display of lights that in years would reach every corner of the universe. From every direction, my attacks rained upon him, a brutal combination of melee, magical and spiritual attacks, an onslaught of seemingly endless attacks and combinations. No matter how much you struggle, no matter how much you defy me, I will be your end. I will claim your life. And then the universe. Null roared for the heavens themselves to hear as he slowly retreated under my assault. You will die trying, I replied, teleporting behind him just as he had parried an attack, leaving him no room to properly react before blasting him away with a light bolt. Taking this moment of repose, I checked on Thor and his location. He was near. In 2 minutes or so, he would reach our location. I smiled, cracking my tired bones as Null regenerated from my attack, bearing the looks of someone consumed by rage. You will regret not taking my offer, for what awaits you in a life in perpetual suffering. Null hissed, his body trembling with uncontrollable wrath, which only made my smile even wider. I was getting under his skin. His inability to swiftly deal with me was getting to him, making him sloppy, careless, even more than he already was. You've been saying that since I got here, I replied, brimming with bravado that was there just for the show, for the metal part of this battle. And yet here I am. I must say, so far you have been a disappointment. Growling, his body fully regenerated, Null came at me roaring, the necroblade whirling across the void of space, leaving a trail of red in its wake. As he neared, blinded by his rage, I took a deep breath, looking at the stars around with a feeling of longing, of purpose, before meeting his advance head-on with a roar of my own, using my energy to enhance it, eclipsing his as mine made the very fabric of space quake worryingly. Then, our attacks clashed right in the middle, creating a power struggle that showed no signs of who had the upper hand or who would win the struggle, locking us in place, face to face, weapon to weapon. Null had the upper hand in raw power alone. However, despite that, our attacks were clashing as two equally devastating forces. Because our struggle wasn't one of powers, ours was one between superior skill and unrefined power. I was aware my skill alone would not grant me the victory I was aiming for. As much as it pained me to admit it, the best I could do was keep this battle at a cosmic impasse. I had no idea what was stopping me from accessing the power the Beyonder claimed I had. I truly didn't have even the slightest clue as to what I was missing. So instead of focusing on that, on what I was missing, instead of focusing on dealing with this on my own, I would share this burden, as it was never mine alone, to begin with. I was not alone in this. I had people I could trust on, so if my powers alone weren't enough, I would scream to the heavens, rallying those who believe me to fight by my side. I honestly have no idea when this realization hit me, only that I felt lifter. Perhaps it had been Thor's advance against my wishes who brought upon me this revelation. Who knows? Null would fall, and the universe would see it through. This war would come to an end, no matter the cost. After all, it is not why I fight, but who I fight for and who fights by my side. So, until Null ceased to exist, I would remain unbroken, in spirit and body. You are barely keeping up. Null snarled with a delighted smile, rage unequivocally still coursing through his body as our clash finally broke, with no side having managed to overpower the other. You are overstepping your mortal boundaries. I can see it, your stupidity and stubbornness as you push your body beyond the breaking point over and over again. Remember who you are, child. You cannot compete with a true god. I laughed at him, infuriating him, but who could blame me? He had demoted me from god or anomaly to a child, a mortal, and for me, that was funny, especially considering all the stuff he had said about me so far. The thing is, he was right. I was a man. A human. A mortal. No matter what I was now, my existence had started as a man. And seeing how these so-called true gods were, for the most part, I was glad to be a human. I know who I am, and I will show you, God of the Abyss, what I can become. I challenged with a grin I had only seen in Thor as Serenity changed shapes to form two battle axes. So, come. I will meet your every attempt head-on, and carve the will of the mortals in your soul before ushering your pitiful existence into the nothingness. Chapter 289. Alex POV. I continued battling Null, using all the skills at my disposal to keep him at bay, as I waited for Thor's arrival, who, according to my map, was a minute away from our location. From there, all I would have to do was give my brother an opening, which would hopefully lead to severing Null's connection to the hive mind, in the process cutting his connecting All Black weakening without measure. All Black was a symbiote, so in theory, severing his connection should disrupt his grasp on the Necroblade. This, however, was nothing more than a hopeful assumption I had. From there, all I would have to do was give my brother an opening, which would hopefully lead to severing Null's connection to the hive mind, in the process cutting his connecting All Black weakening without measure. All Black was a symbiote, so in theory, severing his connection should disrupt his grasp on the Necroblade. This, however, was nothing more than a hopeful assumption I had. On a positive note, I wasn't worried about the Necroblade, in any case, because even if the plan didn't sever his connection to the blade, it would still weaken him a lot, giving me the upper hand regardless of the desired outcome. Smiling, I continued with my battle, with Thor finally reaching our cosmic arena, now hiding beneath the asteroids floating nearby, waiting for an opening to strike Null. However, as Thor waited, I noticed something off with Null's expression. He was smiling. It was a small, subtle smile, but it was there, and it was pretty telling. At first, I was confused by this sudden change of demeanor, but then I realized what was happening. He knew. The bastard knew. Inwardly cursing, I tried to move towards Thor, shouting for him to run away. However, before I could reach Thor, Null had rushed at him, closing the distance between them in the blink of an eye, his blade ready to bisect Thor with a single swipe of his blade. The prospect of it all shaking to the very core at the possibility of it. Without a second thought, I rushed to Thor's aid, teleporting in front of Null order to save my brother from our foolish mistake, blocking the first few attacks with Serenity, locking myself in a brutal exchange of blows with Null that seemed to last forever. However, even though I was managing to block and deflect most of his attacks, I was now locked in a dead end. My precognition showed me nothing but unavoidable ends, that I kept delaying taking the best possible detour from them each time, but as much as I tried to escape these ends, my every kept pushing me to a new dead end, each one harder to escape than the last. In turn giving Null the opening he had been looking for so long, as he thrusted his blade forward over and over again, breaking my defenses. "Brother!" Thor roared in shock, as my blood painted the dark void of space as he violently blasted Null away with a powerful attack that carried all the might of Asgard in it, before taking me into his arms worryingly. However, Thor's actions had been for naught in terms of timing. Null's attack had managed to reach me, leaving my body impaled by the Necroblade, who had already started to consume my very essence in desperate hunger, bringing forth unimaginable agony upon me, that was only slightly drowned out by Null's laughter in the back. I couldn't move. I had lost? I can't lose. I couldn't lose. I didn't mean to. Thor cried, his hands shaking, trying with all his might to take the Necroblade out of my body, failing at every attempt as the blade latched into my skin as any other symbiote would, with tendrils digging into my body for hold. "I will kill you!" Thor roared, his eyes full of anger and tears. "Rejoice that I allow you to see his last moments." Null replied before my mind slipped into a world of darkness. "Alex, it is often said that we are defined by our trials and tribulations. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. And while this may be true to some extent, it is not the whole story. We are also defined by how we choose to face our challenges. Do we cower in the face of adversity, or do we stand tall and confront it head-on? Do we give up at the first sign of trouble, or do we push through and persevere? The choice is ours to make. But know this, whatever decision you make, there is strength within you to see it through. We are what we overcome. We cry for power that is already ours. We seek strength in others, only to find it within. We have everything, from the moment we take our first breath. What? I muttered, opening my eyes to find nothing but white. What will you choose? A voice. A familiar voice. Are you a god or a man? I paused before giving an answer. I am a man. Gods are defined by man. Gods are created by man. Besides, for all the power I have, I am but a man. I see. Who are you? I asked, trying to make sense of what was happening. You. Me? A part of you at least, a figment of your imagination if you wish. We met already, don't you remember? The recovery mode. That meant there was still hope to end this. That would be correct. However, this time there won't be any recovery. This is not your anime power-up moment, or your last resort card type of thing. This is the moment where you decide what path to take, one of rest, or one of war. What? I asked. God, man, father, killer, or recovery mode in my case, these are all titles of power, titles that only hold any power if you give them any, to begin with. I know. I replied, understanding what recovery was saying. The power to end this battle is already yours. It has always been, it's up to you to deny it once again or to accept it. I accept it! I shouted or tried to, without even questioning the fact I had denied it at some point before. Do you now? You might want the power to save what you deem valuable right now, but would that remain? I don't care. I muttered. You should. After this, your life will change forever. No more you will be ignored, and no more your power will have any mental bounds, so to speak. So tell me, are you sure of this? Many will target you. In fact, dying here could be in a way considered mercy, a quick end compared to what awaits for you if you take this chance. I scoffed, unfazed by the possible consequences. Fuck them, fuck you, and while we are at it, fuck everything else. My life has already been hard as it is, so fuck it all. I will be ready for all of them. Haha, good answer. Very well. In that case, I guess I am no longer needed to serve as a filter. Be well, and take care. Evolution requirements have been met. User evolving from celestial/human to Euro. Adjusting stats. The Watcher POV. I watched in awe as the awakening of a new being finally came to a sense in this particular universe. No longer the man he once was, he now stood above others, walking on the path of enlightenment. Now it's time to... Null grinned, walking towards Alex as Thor got ready to fight. However, before he could, Alex stood up, hurling all black at Null like it was but an annoying bug he had allowed to bite him for far too long. Brother? Thor muttered in shock, seeing Alex completely unharmed. In fact, he seemed better than ever. Smiling, Alex stood facing his enemy, his energy completely different from before. His spirit was now calm, collected, focused, and overflowing with power. There was even a victorious grin on his face as he was thinking about how to end Null once and for all. This changes nothing. Null smiled confidently, for in his mind, he was sure he had already won. You might have survived that, but you won't last for long now. I have to revive the symbiotes he killed. But how? Alex wondered, watching his opponent carefully as he analyzed the situation. At first, he had thought of using his energy to reverse the absorption process that Null had done. It was after all a matter of energy. But what guarantee did he have that it would work? He would need to test things out first, to see how his energy interacted with Null's before taking any decisions. Taking a deep breath, Alex moved towards Null, closing the gap between them before Null could even process what was happening, delivering a galaxy-shattering gut punch to the symbiote king, sending him crashing into an empty planet. Coughing huge amounts of blood, Null stood, his fists clenched and an expression of pure rage on his face as he growled. "Damn you! That shouldn't have happened?" finished Alex, already in front of him, cocking his head with a sly smile, before resuming. "Don't worry. I, too, am surprised, so I really understand your shock, big guy," Null growled, taking a step forward, ready to strike Alex. Alex, at this, stopped to look at Null briefly, his smirk widening. "Who would have thought things would turn in my favor after being impaled by your blade? I mean, look at me now, I am now stronger than you. By a lot, isn't that great?" Null clenched his fists even more as veins throbbed on his arms, threatening to explode at any time. "You are nothing," he uttered in rage as he concentrated and gathered his strength for his next attack. Alex watched him, curious to see what the monster had in mind for him, as Null contracted his energy, summoning a few celestial corpses that were under the control of a few symbiotes. That, after their summoning, immediately glared at Alex. "I see," said Alex, cracking his neck as he adopted a fighting stance. "You still had some of those laying around, what a sore sight, honestly." "I did." Null grinned in victory. "And with them, I shall bring forth your end." Without another word, Null made a gesture toward Alex as he commanded them in a roar. "Attack!" The celestial puppets, at this, rushed on the warrior that had disappeared from their sight, reappearing behind them, arms stretched out, ready for the attack. "Bye!" Alex muttered as a massive beam of light left his hands, erasing the celestial's puppets from existence. "You really thought it would work?" "It didn't work when I was weaker. What in the universe made you think it would work now?" Null shouted in rage, his body shaking. "You're not supposed to be this strong." "Oh, I'm sorry," Alex said, his voice dripping with sarcasm and amusement. "Did I hurt your little feelings? Very well then, I'll try to go easier on you next time. Would that make you feel better?" Null's eyes blazed with rage, at what he considered an affront to his very being, as he charged at Alex without a clear strategy, blinded by rage, swinging the necro blade wildly. But sadly for Null, Alex was simply too quick and too strong now, being able to dodge every attack effortlessly as if fighting a mere human. "Is that all?" Alex taunted, keeping his face at all times inches away from Null's. "Shut it!" Null roared, trying to reach what for him was right under his grasp but at the same time unreachable. "I'm disappointed. I was expecting more of a challenge from the Dark Lord of the Symbiotes," Alex muttered close to Null's ear as he continued to dodge Null's onslaught of attacks, one after the other, without breaking a sweat. Null roared in frustration, using all of his power to try and grab him, but Alex simply teleported away before he could, reappearing behind Null and striking him hard with a powerful blast of energy that shook Null to the core. "Now you're just too weak," Alex said, his voice laced with cold disappointment as he stared down at Null with disgust. Null and Alex were two apart now. Alex had finally begun to accept his power, in turn stepping into a level so far out of Null's reach that for Alex, there was no difference between Null and a simple human. Alex Walker had finally reached the true heavens with his power, grasping the power only true gods so far in history had been allowed to have, and Null, in the face of that, was but a bug trying to eat up the sun. "Are you having fun watching?" Alex chuckled, tilting his head in my general direction. I froze, a smile creeping up my face. His awareness had evolved so far that he was now able to perceive and locate multiversal phenomena with frightening accuracy. "Well, do enjoy the show," Alex chuckled once again, turning his attention back to Null. As I was left to wonder what kind of beast had been unleashed onto the multiverse now that Alex was out of bounds. One of good? Or one of chaos? Only time would tell. "I can still hear you," Alex muttered loud enough for me to hear. Perhaps it would be best to have my monologues about him, with the channel to his dimension close. "Yes, perhaps it would," Alex sighed. Chapter 290. Alex Walker POV. I looked at No with a condescending smile as I felt the Watcher's presence fade away in the background. I could see how No was still dizzy from my earlier attack, trembling as his anger continued to rise. It couldn't be easy to understand. One moment he had the upper hand, and the next, there was nothing he could do. You! No spat, his voice dripping with resentment. You're not taking me seriously anymore. Who do you think you are? Fight at full power. I don't want your pity, you bastard. I swear, no matter what it takes, I'm gonna kill you. Piece of shit. You are losing your cool, No. I said, arms crossed. This little show you're putting on is pathetic. Have some dignity and die with some respect, while you still can. All of a sudden, No reached his hand forward and launched a quick burst of black energy that I sidestepped, easily avoiding it. I will kill you! No matter the cost! No roared, sending a barrage of energy beams at me. Like a kid's game, I dodged each one without much effort. Well, this is a nice warm-up. No snarled with hate, stopping his attack as he began concentrating energy in his blade, all black, surrounding the blade with a strong purple light. I stopped, interested in what he was doing. If anything, it would keep me entertained while I figured out how to kill him. Sure, I was stronger than him now, but he was still immortal. Not that it mattered much. I would figure out how to deal with him eventually. In the meantime, however, I would entertain his tantrum. Die! No roared, swinging his blade at me, sending a massive wave of energy with enough power to destroy multiple solar systems at once. I remained still, letting the attack hit me, creating a massive explosion that expanded across the nearby universe. Ha! Weren't you going to kill me? Where's your bravado now? No panted, clearly fatigued by his earlier attack. Do you finally understand your situation? You're getting desperate, I said, using a quick burst of energy to clear the cosmic debris Null's attack had created. Showing that I was completely unharmed, all Null had managed to do was damage my clothes. Null took a step back. His expression was dumbfounded, in disbelief that his last attack had failed to do any damage. This can't be. Null LV 3659. Status fatigued. My turn, I replied, using light nova to burn his body to ashes in a blinding explosion. I knew that wasn't going to kill him, but it sure felt good seeing him struggle. I suppose I can use the time he's taking to regenerate to think of a solution for him. Taking a deep breath, I activated thought acceleration. To make things easier, I lacked the power to erase immortality as a whole, seeing as someone far stronger than me held the domain over that. Oblivion was still far out of my range. So trying to erase Null's immortality was out of the question, for now, at least. Sealing him was also out of the question. It hadn't worked the first time, and it wouldn't work the second. I guess if I can't kill him, or seal him, that only leaves one gate to use. I had to absorb Null, which would effectively kill him, because everything that made Null who he was, would become mine. Who knows, I might even find a use for his abilities. As I came to this less than pleasant conclusion about how to deal with the King of Darkness, Null began to regenerate at a clearly slower rate than usual, his aura and expression blinded by rage. I won't die by your hands. You're right, Null, I won't kill you today, I replied, my response stunning the still regenerating Null, who obviously expected something different from me. I have a much different plan for you. Null, startled by my sudden change of tone, looked at me unsure what to do before saying in rage. You are mocking me! I see. Fool! If you think for a second that you're superior to me, you will soon find that the reality is different. I will admit you are harder to kill than I am, I replied, moving behind Null before the former could react. Immortality is a pain in the ass, I muttered behind him, using light seal to cage his regenerating body in a small ball of translucent light. No matter how many times you try, you won't be able to kill me. Null laughed, turning around inside his prison to glare at me. Go ahead, vaporize my body. It won't do a thing, I always come back, and it's only a matter of time before you tire out, and I kill you. Not being able to die doesn't mean you're invincible," I replied, reducing the size of his prison to the point his body was forcibly twisted into a ball. "Yet I still remain." Null spat, his eyes flashing with fury and overconfidence. "Yeah, I suppose you have a point there," I replied with a sigh, before grinning at him. "Allow me to rectify." Having said this, I began the ritual I had used on Ego a long time ago. Null, sensing something was wrong, began to try and break out of his cage in a frenzy. But with how weakened he was right, and my power being above his, he simply stood no chance against his bindings. "What do you think you're doing?" Null roared, demanding an answer. "Not playing with my food," I replied, that being more than enough to tell Null what I had planned for him. "You intended to consume me," Null hissed. "Are you truly that much of an idiot? I am darkness incarnated. My power will destroy your soul, and consume your being. You will die before you realize it." Doubt it. I might go through an emo phase after consuming you, but other than that, I doubt you will have much of an influence in my being," I said, cutting him off. "So sit back, and enjoy your last moments in this world. You truly lost your senses. You would truly dare to consume the one who slaughtered trillions of lives?" Null roared, his body shaking in mortal rage inside the ball. "I can't be erased. I am the ruler of the darkness. I am the instrument of fear and despair. I am Dash. A loser who needs to play the man to be feared once he's cornered," I replied, my eyes gleaming with indifference. "Take some comfort in the fact you will probably give some indigestion. You dare to mock me?" Null roared in blind rage, his voice shaking with rage. "I will kill you. I will tear you apart from the inside out." "Oh, my fucking stars. Shut the fuck up, Null. If you're going to act like a lunatic, do it inside your head," I said, using a muting spell. Silence, to save me from the agony of hearing Null scream down to his last moments. Now, all that was left was to finish the ritual. So, closing my eyes and taking a deep breath, I let my energy flow and ignite, starting a powerful wave of reactions that began to absorb Null's being into my own. He thrashed inside his cage, trying to fight the inevitable. But as hard as he tried, his efforts proved futile. The power that poured out of Null was immense in its own right, enough to scorch the stars and drive away any light from the void. I could feel him fighting to the very end as the ritual continued, trying to tear me apart from the inside out. I pushed through his resistance, and with a final scream of unyielding rage from him apart from that echoed in the deepest corners of my mind, I felt as my essence became one with the ruler of darkness. I felt the power he had carried, as well the evilness and wickedness of his being now coursing through my veins. Soul corruption has started thanks to Darkness Ember. Corruption immunity has cancelled absorption side effects. Corruption immunity has eliminated Darkness Ember. And just like that, I felt normal once again. New title acquired, God of the Symbiotes. New title acquired, Lord of the Abyss. New title acquired, King in Black. I blinked. That's new. I never got titles after eating someone before. A new skill has been created through a specific action. Hive Mind Passive LV Max. Curious, I opened the skill up to see what exactly it entailed. Hive Mind Passive. LV Max equals this skill allows the user to share his consciousness with a collective of beings as long as they are under his direct command. The user can exert control over those under the effect of this skill, overriding their free will with that of the user. This was the power Null had used with his own creations. New item acquired. All Black the Necrosword. All Black the Necrosword legendary item. All Black is a sentient weapon capable of absorbing all types of energy. This weapon was once subservient to its creator Null but now recognizes you as its true and unique master. Unique skills. Transcendent Slayer Passive LV-178 equals All Black's main purpose when it was created was the elimination of celestials, gods, and other cosmic entities, and as such it was granted by his creator the ability to bypass their immortality, affecting them as though they were mortal. Transcendent Hunger. Passive LV 219 equals all black feeds off and draws its strength from the blood of its enemies, so the more souls are vanquished with it, the more power the necrosword can provide its user, though this power must be replenished as it is used up. I will look into all that later. First, I have a war to stop. Closing all notifications, I used my newly acquired skill, Hive Mind, to order all symbiotes to stop. Brother, you won! Thor, who I had completely not forgotten, was near shouted in glee. Holy fuck, you need a bell. I mean, of course, I did. I replied, wondering how the fuck I had totally not forgotten about him being near. You forgot I was here, didn't you? Thor narrowed his eyes. I kind of did, I admitted. That wraps up this part of What If Reincarnated in Marvel as a Gamer. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Reincarnated in Marvel as a Gamer is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if hosting Q&A in One Piece world? What if Luffy ate the sun fruit instead of rubber fruit? What if Transmigrated in Bleach as Tsunayoshi Sawada? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released 1 day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.